Spartans! Ready your breakfast and eat hearty. But tonight, we dine!
Nasty.
Welcome in. I don't know what episode it is now, but we took a little bit of a hiatus. I think we got a little busy with the end of our summer schedules. We had these big hopes of breaking down all of the divisions and previewing them for the year, but instead we kind of just took a break, and now this is what we wanted to do in the first place. We wanted to review the weeks. We wanted to eventually get people on and talk about their weeks. But this will be our first weekly review, and I think that we're excited to keep going and doing this weekly from now on.
Yeah, let's just say a great hallelujah for football being back. So we're obviously really excited about that. Week one's in the book now. We can kind of highlight week one games, talk about the scores, talk about players that we thought kind of performed well, maybe players that didn't perform as well. Yeah. So just it was nice to have football back. I was sitting on my couch for like 8 hours on Sunday. It's kind of like I compared
7 hours of commercial-free football.
7 hours of commercial-free football.
Yet they still found a way to disappoint, even though it was 7 straight hours of football. I felt like it was a little bit too much of the Chiefs game. And they faded the Buccaneers game in the 4 o'clock hour, and I was a little upset about that.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't really paying attention. There was just so much football on, and they kind of whisk you away. They always talk about red zone, just kind of an injury happens or a commercial happens, and they just kind of whisk you away to another game. Like I couldn't do anything else on Sunday. I just wanted to watch football, and then it kind of the overtime game came. The Lions and the Cardinals went till like 8:30.
Oh my God!
A train wreck.
Terrible. What a terrible game.
Absolutely horrible game, but I couldn't look away. Couldn't look away. So that led right into the Sunday night football game. So about 9:30, I was just like, I've had enough. I have to go to bed. I have to turn off the TV and just have a moment of like, okay, I need to just decompress from all the football that I just witnessed.
That overtime game was so bad that I was not inclined at all to watch the 8:30 game. Like I needed to take a break, and then by the time that I decided to not take a break, there was like 20-0. So that was kind of the end of my night there. But then Monday night, those games were so good on Monday night, or the first game was so good on Monday night. I couldn't look away, and I was so excited for Darren Waller in the second game that I needed to watch a little bit of it.
Absolutely.
Stayed up way too late, felt it the next day. Kind of really happy that there wasn't any football on Tuesday night because I just needed to go to bed early.
Yeah, and we start again tomorrow. So we're recording this on Wednesday night, so hopefully we can get this out to you. And Thursday starts. We have Thursday night football, Panthers and Buccaneers tomorrow night. So let's just kind of get into the week one reviews and talk a little bit about it. We got a
little bit before the week one reviews. Since we've been off the air after the Darius Geis trade, which we vehemently disagree on.
Sure.
And it looks like someone was right about that, and I'm going to pat my own back and take an early victory lap on that.
Very early
victory lap, but an injury-riddled early career with, about 4 snaps in preseason and about 20 snaps in regular season, and Darius Geis is injured again.
He looks so good.
Did he?
Looks so good.
10 for 18. Did he really look that good? I don't think so.
I think more in the preseason touches. Going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, we're not going to replay every single game, every single snap from these players, but you're playing a Philadelphia Eagles defense that has a really good front four.
That's correct.
So I think just that as your first initial test, week one, I'm not expecting him to go off and run for 150 yards and several touchdowns week one, but I think just slowly into it. But you're right, he's injury plagued. We'll see what happens for 6 weeks. It sounds like maybe is the timeline. I've heard kind of a little bit more optimistic news come out of Washington saying it might be sooner, but
Washington people always have setbacks, so probably looking at 8+ weeks.
Hopefully they get it right and do right by him with this injury. So let him.
Not a great start. If I gave up 3 first-round picks and Sammy Watkins to get this guy, I'm not super happy about what's going on. Right
and again, I'm on the other side of that trade.
I know.
So I love Darius Geis, but I do love what I received for Darius
and you
Geis.
dragged our other fantasy dynasty teams down because of your love for Darius Geis. But moving on, since then we've had 2 trades. One that doesn't, both of them one that involves Brent, and 3 other ones that don't.
Remind me of this one. I'm blanking on it.
This was kind of out of nowhere. I felt like it was out of nowhere, and one that I feel like just kind of like the Antonio Brown trade. I kind of agree with the guy who. I kind of agree with my dad. NJ Giants here picks up Phil Lindsay, Emmanuel Sanders, Sterling Shepard, and a 2020 first-round pick from West Coasters, who's more than likely going to have like an 8 or later first-round pick. So he's getting an 8 or later pick, and he gave up his first-round pick, his second-round pick, and Geronimo Allison. I really don't quite understand what Jarrett was doing with this trade. I understand that NJ Giants is probably going to have a higher draft pick than West Coasters. But I think Jarrett his team is so deep, so good, that he goes and gives away 2 receivers that can start and a running back that can start. Now, I'm not super high on Phil Lindsay, but Phil Lindsay's better than Geronimo Allison, and you never know with how deep this class is, how good, like, let's say, the 6th pick that he's going to have with NJ Giants pick is compared to the 9th, 10th, or 11th pick that the NJ Giants is now going to take with West Coasters pick.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly what you said. I think he was trying to move up in the draft next year, knowing that the 2020 class is going to be a very strong class. You and I know this from doing some research and everything. And I'm assuming he's thinking another, like, if I can get at the top of that, it might be a top-heavy draft. So I can kind of get my pick on that. So if he gets to from, like, maybe the 6, 7, 8 hole instead of where he's probably going to finish closer maybe to the 10, 11, 12 hole. Mm-hmm. So I definitely agree with you. I think he gave up a little too much there. I think he was ready to offload Phil Lindsay. Like, we don't know what he's going to do in that backfield. Royce Freeman's obviously nipping at his heels, so we'll see what happens there.
Well, I think my biggest issue with it is giving up the first-round pick in return. Like, if Jarrett comes out of this trade, he gets 2 first-round picks now and another second-round pick, which is hopefully going to be early for just the 3 guys, just for Lindsay, Sanders, and Shepard. I think that makes more sense to me because he's not only, like, we did this, we had a deep team. We just traded Galladay for a first and a second next year. We traded Phillip Rivers for a third. In 2021, we traded who else did we trade for 2 third-round picks? Traquan Smith for 2 third-round picks, one next year, one the year after. Like, it makes sense if you're going to increase the amount of draft picks you have. But when you give up a first to get a first, and then you've got to give up 3 players who can start this year, when his team is the favorite to win, it just seems confusing to me that he would need to have thrown in. If he threw in a second and got that first in return, and he had 2 seconds and 2 first, or a second that was now NJ Giants and 2 firsts, I think he comes out more of a winner, and I think that's even a fair trade still.
Yeah, and I think it might have been how late. I think if he would have traded Phil Lindsay at the end of last year, say, when all this hype was going on, when Philip Lindsay was just, doing amazing things. Like, he came out of nowhere. I think he could have gotten a lot more out of trading Philip Lindsay at the end of last year or in the offseason. I think it was a little bit too late. We've kind of heard the noise, like Royce Freeman's going to take away some carries. We don't know what that Denver offense is going to look like. Philip Lindsay's, is he going to be the main back? Is he going to be a scat back in that offense? So I think if he would have unloaded him a little earlier, he would have got that return. So I'm wondering why it took him so long, and maybe it was just he couldn't find the trade partners. And
well, that and I just feel like NJ Giants was very weak at the running back position, and if Phil Lindsay is even a running back 2 this year, or even if he's a running back 3 this year, you have Odell Beckham, you have Larry Fitzgerald, you had Tyreek Hill, who's now out 4 to 6 weeks, or is it 6 to 8? He's out for a little bit.
6 to 8, I believe.
But now he's got Emmanuel Sanders, he's got Sterling Shepard, he's got Travis Kelce, who's a top-fledged tight end. Adrian Peterson, now his value just skyrocketed. He had Chris Thompson. He has Mark Ingram. Like, this to me, NJ Giants transforms his team from a top 4 pick next year to a middle 4 pick, and with the potential of getting lucky 2 weeks in the playoffs, because he has some big name guys who can put up some big numbers, and maybe he gets into the 3rd place game. And then who knows if his pick is even better than Jarrett's pick.
No, I definitely like it for NJ Giants. I think he came out looking like the winner. If you want to give grades to the trades and everything, I think he came out the winner of this trade, and he kind of had an idea. I want to better my running backs. I want to deepen my wide receiver core, and I think he did it just that. And if he honestly finishes up there, then we're going to look back and say this was a poor trade because Jarrett really didn't get much out of it,
and whether
if anything at all.
Yeah. Whether he moves, and then Geronimo Allison comes out and gets 0 targets this week, and then it looks even worse. Sorry, moving on. We've really harped on this. I think we've been going for a little bit, and we haven't even gotten anywhere of where we needed to be.
No.
Then Mike trades Vance McDonald for a 2021 second. I like that value for Mike. Again, someone that he either might drop or he's got enough depth to move him off his team. This is when he has Howard and Ingram. We know that changes, and we'll get to that here in just a second. But he gets a value back in 2021. I mean, who knows what Vance McDonald's going to be, but I think that's good value. But also at the same time, John doesn't have a tight end right now. He had Gronk, he had Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Both guys are throwing footballs on in the streets of New York City. So he needed someone who could play. He gets Vance McDonald. There's a lot of hope for him this year. So I think it's a good trade both ways.
Yeah, and I think Vance McDonald is a good tight end. What did you say? It was a 2020 second?
2021 second.
2021 second. So a couple years out and everything. I think Vance McDonald is going to have a nice return value this year, playing in a good, high-powered Steelers offense. Obviously, they didn't look good up in Foxborough, but they rarely do. Get Big Ben back at home this week. I think he's going to come around. I think Juju's going to play better. I think Vance McDonald's obviously going to be included in that. James Conner's going to rebound. So, I like that. I think kind of pushing out to 2021, we don't know what that class even looks like, even coming up now. So you need a tight end right now. Let's kind of move. But again, Jets are on the clock. Like, he's trying to kind of bolster his roster and kind of get another guy in there.
Mm-hmm. And then after the Andrew Luck trade, you pick up Dak Prescott for a 2nd-round pick. It's looking like a steal right now with his first week, but I think I could have put up 400 yards against the Giants' defense if they left the entire middle of the field open all game with just allowing Cowboys to run free.
I definitely wish that Dak Prescott plays against the New York Giants every week, but that would be great for my roster and moving forward. But yeah, absolutely. I think I was hesitant to give up the 2020 second. I kind of covered a lot of those 2020 picks, but I felt like where my team was, and obviously the Andrew Luck news hit really hard. I thought he was going to be a top 2 or 3 quarterback this year, and I was set at that position for the next couple of years. Obviously, I had to do something different. Mm-hmm. So I felt like in that position, I went ahead and just made the trade. Hopefully it continues to bolster my roster.
And then the big trade happened pretty much just before kickoff on Thursday, is that Mike and Tyler engage in a trade. Mike sends Evan Ingram to Tyler for Dante Moncrief, a 2020 first and a 2020 second. Eventually came back to bite Mike in the ass because Evan Ingram...
I was going to say it.
Evan Ingram went off week 1.
Tyler got immediate return there.
Yeah, he did. So, I mean, Tyler's one of those teams who finished in second year 1, finished third to last year 2, and now is looking to contend again. He had a lot of draft picks. He picked a lot of guys who are probably going to have some value. Miles Sanders, Deebo Samuel, David Montgomery. He got Noah Fant. We'll see if Joe Flacco can figure that out. But so he gets Evan Ingram, slots him right into his tight end slot, and comes away with a victory. Steals it right from Mike's nose on week 1. So I think it's a good trade for Mike. Like you talk about, 2020 picks are super, super important. Mike now has 2 in each of the first 2 rounds. We'll see where Tyler ends up and how high that draft pick is going to be. But the other question is, Mike goes from having Howard, Ingram, and Vance McDonald to having just O.J. Howard, and O.J. Howard looked terrible on Sunday.
That whole Buccaneers offense, I mean, you and I know better than most. We have Jameis Winston in another league, so we were really struggling with that defeat. But yeah, O.J. Howard, he fumbled the ball. He
Dropped a
bunch of passes. We've always heard that Bruce Arians doesn't really use a tight end, so we'll see. And Cameron Braid is still in that offense. I mean, I know he's kind of the afterthought, but he actually had 2, I think, nullified touchdowns. At least one that I saw. I'm pretty sure it was 2 though. So Braid could still be a red zone threat there. So yeah. We don't know where Mike is with the tight end depth. I mean, it was a very, like you were saying, I mean, having O.J. Howard, Evan Ingram, and Vance McDonald, obviously he was very stacked at that position and felt like he can move a piece or two. But now let's kind of see where the chips fall. So
yeah, it all depends on. I mean, O.J. Howard's been hurt the last 2 years, so Mike is putting a lot of his stock into O.J. Howard. However, at the other end of it, Mike's had a little bit of a tumultuous year with Todd Gurley not looking like the Todd Gurley of old, with Kareem Hunt being cut and suspended for the first 8 games.
AJ
Green is injured. Just Jerick McKinnon isn't coming back on the field. So the powerhouse that looked like Mike's team was a couple years ago now might not be that powerhouse. So it really just it lends some question to, like, if he does struggle this year, if O.J. Howard does let him down, now he's walking into 2020 with 4 draft picks in the first 2 rounds and a chance to get back to where he was a couple years ago. All right, well, now we're going to move into the reason why we started doing this podcast, to review week 1. I'm going to say that it was pretty vanilla, but a couple interesting things happening week 1. Brent, you let us off, or you came through 171, high score of the week. Will, Backyard Boys, 153, had the second high score of the week. Fairbanks Flamingos, 142. He pulled the upset on Mike and had the third highest score of the week. Jets Are on the Clock pulled the ultimate upset and beat West Coasters this weekend, which we'll get into in just a little bit here. He comes in with the 4th highest score of the week, and then sick of it all, Ryan comes in with the 5th highest score. Mike gets the loss with the 6th highest score at 122. Dominators gets a loss at 115. Class of 2017 gets a loss also at 115. West Coasters 114. I squeak out a win against Nick. Wasn't that hard. Don't deserve it. And then NJ Giants 101 and Everything Must Go at 75. So just quickly to touch on my game with Nick. He's still growing. He's still getting there. His
that 3-year plan we were talking about, I think he was maybe thinking that he was going to be really competitive, and I'm sure he still will this year. He'll be competitive in some games, but this first game he kind of got off to a slow start.
Well, I mean, Darrell Henderson didn't pan out. He looked like he was going to be a contributor. He got 1 carry. Darwin Thompson, he kind of lost his place when they signed Shady McCoy. Deion Kane looks like he's going to grow into a bigger role. He made the right decision at quarterback, even though Darnold only gave him 15. But he had Justice Hill starting, Miles Boykin, Ian Thomas didn't give him anything out of the tight end position. So his team will improve throughout the year, but it'll be tough to find these starts and these players early because Irv Smith, another early pickup that he had, just didn't produce last week, and on top of that, the 2 guys he picked in the first round are both on IR right now, in N'Keal Harry and Hakeem Butler. So, he had a lot of picks. He had a lot of early picks, and was hoping to see them produce a little bit more, but just not really quite there yet. But that's rookies.
Yeah, and I think, in that trade that he did with me. And I guess in the offseason, he got Pettis and he got Cup. Both of these guys, obviously Cup had a decent game. I think he's in line to play a little bit more often, kind of in that He's probably the second or third option in a high-powered offense. So again, I think he's going to be better. He only had 8.1 points. Dante Pettis, a lot has been said about him this offseason. It seems like he was the darling of the 49ers last year, and everybody loved him. They thought he was going to just have this breakout year too. And now Kyle Shanahan is talking about how he needs to earn a spot. He's playing low snaps. He only played 2 snaps this last game, so I don't know what's going to come with him, but hopefully he can mature and kind of develop in this offense. Miles Boykin, I like him a lot. I think in that Ravens offense, he's looking good. Obviously Marquise Brown kind of had the breakout game, but
Marquise Brown only played 12 snaps.
Yep.
Miles Boykin was definitely on the field more than Marquise Brown, so. They played the Dolphins. They didn't really need to do much, even though they did a whole lot. They didn't really need to do much.
Yeah. And your team, you put out a solid performance. I feel like Joe Mixon let you down. He's going to have better weeks. Mm-hmm. Josh Gordon, with this Antonio Brown news, who knows what actually is going to happen these days. He's a Raider, he's not a Raider, he's a Patriot, he might not be a Patriot anymore. We don't know. I don't know what the latest is, but obviously he has a lot of all-field issues, let's just say. Mm-hmm. And he could be on the exempt list this week. So we don't know, but Josh Gordon, I think he's going to be around regardless, and a contributor in that New England offense.
Just got lucky with my receivers didn't really do well. 4 for 33 for Trey Quinn, 3 for 43 for Adam Thielen, and 3 for 73 for Josh Gordon. But all of them score. So when you score, obviously 14, 11, 11. That just helps boost the score. The triple-headed tight end, the triple-headed monster in my 3 tight ends really paid off. Mark Andrews with a huge game of 20 points. Waller with a solid game of 10, and then Ertz actually, ironically, is the worst of them with only 8 this week.
And obviously he's going to step up and probably get closer to that 15-20 point output most weeks.
Drew Brees looked like the Drew Brees of old, and that was pretty encouraging to see. Not expecting a lot from myself this year, not expecting a lot from Nick this year, but definitely something that I don't know, keep an eye on.
Was that the lowest score of the week?
That was the lowest winning score of the week.
I think that was the lowest combined score too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Well, if I was the lowest winning score, then how is it not the lowest combined score?
That's true.
But yeah, and then moving on, sick of it all. Ryan played Mouth in a pretty tight game, a 10-point win there for Ryan. And I think that this, we talked to Mouth, and then we didn't put out that episode. But we talked to Mouth about a little bit of a lack of depth, and I feel like it kind of bit him here. And sometimes I think the injuries bit him. Trey Burton didn't play. Who knows what he would have produced? But Dallas Goedert gave him a fat 2.6 for playing him. Mike Williams got hurt, so he wasn't in the game much. Devontae Adams had a poor week. So, he just didn't really. Devontae Freeman played terrible. Sony Michel played terrible. Yep. So all these guys that you're expecting to do well in this offense or on this team didn't really do well. And on top of that, Antonio Brown wasn't in the lineup because we all know we spend too much time talking about him. But a couple late touchdowns make Matt Ryan a viable quarterback. Julian Edelman get 13 points. Michael Thomas is always looking pretty solid, 17 points.
I was going to say kind of the comeback win, because the last time I looked at this, class of 2017 was up, and I guess for whatever reason I didn't look at it after the Monday night games, and so obviously...
Well, he had Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray scores.
Played well. Michael Thomas played well.
Yeah. Well, in his defense, the Bills' defense, he played pretty well and got him 16 points. And then he's got McCoy on the bench. He's got Rashard Penny on the bench. I like Ryan's depth. I think he's got a lot. He could potentially have a lot moving forward. Corey Latimer had a nice day. So when you look at it, Ryan would have won optimum score, 139, 130. So he did a pretty good job to put his best lineup out there.
Yeah, we always talk about Ryan kind of putting out the old guys, but his team just keeps sticking around, and he has some youth in there. So I think he's going to be somebody that's going to put up some nice scores this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, he won the league first place last year.
Yep.
And he's just as hot to start this year with getting on the board.
But you got to believe with Mouth's team, I mean, that's, I think, one of the most frustrating things. And we all have probably multiple teams and kind of doing this for a long time. Fantasy football isn't always what it seems like it's going to be on paper. You kind of go throughout the off season and you think like, oh man, I have this guy and he's going to put up these numbers every single week. And it just doesn't always happen. And I think this is one of those weeks where Mal's team, I'm pretty sure they were projected to be maybe in the high 120s, low 130s, and just didn't meet that output.
Yeah. I think this is probably gonna be one of the worst weeks he puts up all year. I think 115 is probably gonna be on the low end for him.
Yep.
And we just look for him to improve as the season goes on. Then we move to Backyard Boys Will versus NJ Giants. We praised NJ Giants for that trade and how much help it gave him. Didn't work last week. He had a couple of issues. Sterling Shepard didn't perform super well, and Tyreek Hill got hurt early. Marvin Jones had a bad game against a bad secondary in Arizona. Jared Goff had a bad game on the road. Phil Lindsay was not as impressive as everyone hoped he was going to be. And Kelsey even let him down for only 3 for 88, but Mahomes threw 300 yards in the first half and had about 20 yards in the second half because they just ran the ball. But just a super strong week from Will. Besides Corey Davis, who might end up on the waiver wire soon.
And talk about a first-round potential. A lot of people were talking about him. I know when Will took him, I think it was our startup draft. I got him in the 5th round.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's one of these that's just a startup 3rd, 4th round player and just not producing. I don't know if it's the offense, but A.J. Brown here looks pretty good in that offense. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens with Corey Davis moving forward, but you hate to see that from such a guy with such potential.
Well, Denzel Ward is the corner in Cleveland that shut him down. He is a pretty good corner, so maybe everyone who faces Denzel Ward is going to have some similar struggles.
Yeah.
But on Will's side, we talk about Corey Davis, but that's on the bad end. But everything else looks pretty good. Deshaun Watson puts up 36 points. Austin Eckler puts up 36 points.
Such a huge week. Eckler filling in for Melvin Gordon. I think that Melvin Gordon obviously thought that it was going to turn out a little bit differently for him. Mm-hmm. He kind of sees Le'Veon Bell do it last year. James Conner fills in so well. I wonder if Gordon thought that this was going to happen, but Eckler and Justin Jackson look pretty good out there, mm-hmm. especially Eckler. So putting up, like you said, 36 points.
Yep. T.Y. Hilton comes in with 24 points. And then his big guns don't fire, and he still wins. Barkley with 15 points. Zeke with 12 points. Cortland Sutton he looked pretty good in his kind of step up into a bigger role in the offense. He comes in with 15 points. His tight ends let him down. Ebron only 1.3, and Hunter Henry only gets him 8 points. That's probably the biggest hole on his team right now. With Hunter Henry being down for 4 to 6 weeks, he can lean on Ebron, but Ebron's year last year was 10 touchdowns is ridiculous and something he's probably not going to repeat, especially with Jack Doyle back. And Mo Alley Cox was involved.
Yep.
Whether he's targeted or not, he's on the field and he's taking that opportunity away.
Yeah, and I think obviously with Brissett there, he kind of looks at the tight end a little bit more than Luck obviously found Ebron a lot last year in the red zone, but I think Brissett kind of throughout the game, kind of in between the 20s, kind of looks for the tight end a little bit more. But we'll see what happens with Ebron. Like you said, Mo Alley Cox is involved. Jack Doyle's back. They have a lot of offensive weapons. So I don't think Ebron's going to have the same success that he did last year in that offense. Mm-hmm. So I think tight end's going to be moving forward kind of a rough spot for Will. So he's going to have to find something there.
Yeah, and then. Moving to your game, Brent, because I want to talk about the two, put them in quotes, upsets, the two teams that didn't make the playoffs last year that beat the teams who made the playoffs last year. So you come out and you just absolutely destroy the Vikings. Defense looked unstoppable, as did Dak Prescott, but the Giants might have been playing with 10 or 9 guys. I don't know. We'll have to count them, but they certainly were not playing with 11. David Johnson had a big second half for you when that offense decided to turn it on.
They really turned it on that second half, and I don't know if you all saw it or not, but it was one of the most beautiful catches. David Johnson went up there in the end zone. It looked like he was a natural wide receiver. Like, I think it was 20, 25 yards down the field. So
it was a great catch.
Got to love David Johnson's performance.
You know who you got to love?
Who's that?
You got to love DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh,
there is nothing better than watching DeAndre Hopkins catch a football when he's on your fantasy football team. And he's on 3 of my teams, so I just get great... 2 of my teams, so I just get great joy every time he scores a touchdown. He's just so good.
I love watching him. And it's just, he kind of proves time in and time out why he's the best receiver in the game. You kind of hear Odell's the best, Devontae Adams is the best, whoever, but Nuke went out there and put together a really good showing on that Monday Night Football game.
That's all he does. He does. He was shadowed by Marshawn Lattimore, and all he does is catch 2 touchdowns, go over 100 yards. The one play, that first touchdown, the one play they don't put Marshawn Lattimore on him, he makes him pay.
Yep. And early on in that game, I don't know if you all heard or not, but Twitter was going nuts because he had 3 drops. Yeah. They said that he didn't drop a pass last year. Now Nuke is done. DeAndre Hopkins isn't his former self, and then he went out and did.
Well, that catch, that deep ball that Deshaun Watson threw on the Texans last drive, that over-the-shoulder grab that he made, and just Lattimore's reaching at the ball, his hands are so strong. That's super impressive. And then
so nice to have him in your lineup.
Yeah, and then Cooper gives you a big week. You kind of started to mention Kerryon Johnson there. He kind of let you down. Stephon Diggs let you down. George Kittle was not as good as you would have hoped George Kittle did, but he still managed a pretty solid week of 171 there. On the other side, you could have really killed it if your optimal score was 227, so you could have really killed it if you knew how to set a lineup the right way.
If I only knew that Sammy Watkins was going to do that and drop 43 points, but yeah. Man, thank you, Malf. I owe that to you. I'm definitely going to put him in my lineup.
Next 3 first-round picks too. You owe it all to him. Thanks, Malf. But then Rob's team, pretty solid output, I would say. Not necessarily who he started because he didn't put up huge weeks, but his optimum total was 166. I completely understand where he's coming from. Not playing TJ Hawkinson, you don't know what that's going to be, but TJ Hawkinson looks like he's for real. Deshaun Jackson had a broken finger. I could understand not playing him, but
he looks so good in that offense.
So good. 10 targets.
And the thing about Deshaun Jackson is he's a more pure route runner these days than he's ever been. He's 32, 33 years old. He's still fast as lightning, but he's actually, I think, a better receiver today than he has been.
Yeah.
Definitely early on in his career, but putting up 31 points.
Yeah. And heavily targeted and involved in the offense, I think, was the other piece that jumped out to me. But he's got a lot to grow. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and how bad that Thursday night game was impressive. Got a lot of targets, second most on the team behind Devontae Adams. Gus Edwards had a decent game, or at least he was involved. He didn't score, but he was involved and could potentially play a part when the Ravens talk about using the hot hand out of the backfield. He could have the hot hand a couple weeks. But just in his lineup, Tyrell Williams gets a huge bump with the loss of Antonio Brown.
Yep. He's going to be their one in Oakland. So, I mean, that is huge. Tyler Boyd, kind of the same.
Yeah. Tyler Boyd had a good week, but he just didn't get into the end zone, which would have made it a better week. D.D. Westbrook did get into the end zone, kind of salvaged a bad game, but Chris Connolly and DJ Chark were the 2 receivers who really jump off the page from Jacksonville. But who knows if that was a matchup thing or, I mean, the Chiefs are just Swiss cheese. So we'll see what happens moving forward. I'm really high on D.D. Westbrook. I know you're not as high on D.D. Westbrook, but I don't know. We'll see if that continues to be the pecking order of Chark, Connolly, and then Westbrook.
And I agree. I think I'm not as high on DD, but I think Conley, and they called it a revenge game. going against his old team. I think he's going to kind of fade. I don't see the same output from Chris Conley. Chris Conley, is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Chris Conley every week. I think Dede Westbrook and DJ Chark are going to be kind of the 1-2 in Jacksonville week to week.
Mm-hmm. And then Matt Breida moves into a starting role with the injury to Tevin Coleman, so look for more out of him moving forward. Jared Cook was kind of involved, but the Saints offense just doesn't really use a tight end. And that would be a big loss for him because Jared Cook was so good in that Oakland offense last year. And then Peyton Barber could probably spend the rest of the year on his bench, and he wouldn't mind. But Tariq Cohen was heavily involved out of the slot. And I think that he, moving forward, is going to not just have 8 catches for 49 yards, but he's gonna break some plays and have some huge weeks because he is going to be so involved in the offense.
Well, I mean, they use him as a receiver, and that was clear. I think Anthony Miller was the one that was kind of getting the hype and saying, like, oh, he's going to be really effective in this offense. But Tariq Cohen has kind of taken that spot away from Miller in a way. I think he's kind of doing a lot of those things, at least the kind of the slot running, kind of the more possession receiver, and then Allen Robinson really looks good in that offense as well.
Mm-hmm. And then we move on to Mike versus Tyler. Tyler comes away with the victory here. A pretty solid lineup score, at 92%. Mike coach rating is 79%. Would have really been interesting if they set their optimum lineup because it would have been 154 for Tyler and 153 for Mike. That would have involved him playing Mac Brown over Todd Gurley, I think, or maybe Curtis Samuel. But anyway, you get it. It would have been bad decisions. Mike Evans wouldn't have played, and Curtis Samuel wouldn't have played, and Todd Gurley wouldn't have played. So,
but let's talk about Mac Brown a little bit. Like, I think that's it's not Mac Brown, is it?
Is it Marlon Brown?
I have no idea. It very well could be Mac Brown. Anyway,
Malcolm
Brown, whatever his name is.
Maybe
Mac Brown
is his nickname.
Mac Brown was also that old white guy that used to coach Texas. Anyways, Malcolm Brown. I think moving forward, he might be a potential starter. Like, I mean, I think what they're wanting to do with this Rams offense, obviously they're wanting, we kind of see it. We heard about it all off season. Todd Gurley's going to get limited touches. I think still moving forward, he's going to get his touches, and he's going to perform well. But Malcolm Brown is probably going to get some goal line carries. He's going to get some touchdowns this year. Obviously, Todd Gurley's probably led the NFL in touchdowns over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Malcolm Brown is going to get his touches, and I think he might find the end zone several times this year.
Well, it was interesting that Gurley was used primarily in between the 20s, and then Malcolm Brown was used in the red zone. And who knows if that's going to be... I mean, Gurley found plenty of room. He rushed for 101 yards. But it's just he lacked that touchdown upside... Or not that touchdown upside, but he lacked that touchdown this week. He only had one reception, which is un-Todd Gurley-like. So it just, definitely some things for him to build off of. I mean, I don't think he's going to be the number one overall pick, Todd Gurley, but I think he's probably going to be in the running back 2 area. I think he'll get in the end zone more than he did. I mean, he was on the field for the majority of the snaps. Malcolm Brown was only on the field for about 20% of the snaps. So it wasn't like it was 50-50 and Gurley didn't get, Gurley wasn't in when it was goal line. It was Malcolm Brown came in, got the carry when it mattered, and made it count. Mm-hmm. So I think that Gurley will be fine at the end of the day. Probably a running back 2, maybe a running back 3 if Malcolm Brown keeps vulturing touchdowns. But maybe Malcolm Brown will have 5 touchdowns this year. If you got 2 this week, then it's not taking away a whole lot moving forward. But
we kind of talk about, I just want to, sorry to interrupt you there, but I want to talk about like Hackenberger and Fries. Obviously, they didn't win this game, but I think they have a lot to build on. Like his team is, I mean, we talk about all the injury bugs that he has, but he still has Marlon Mack, Derrick Henry, Chris Carson, and then what we talked about with the Rams backfield as well. But, I mean, those 3 backs right there are turning into our regular RB2s, RB1s, which is just, it just says a lot for the depth that Hackenberger and Fries continues to have year after year, with all these backs going down and receivers going down. It seems like, and obviously he's going to get more from Mike Evans. He's going to get more from Cam Newton on a week-in, week-out basis.
Well, Cam Newton had a terrible week. Didn't run the ball. Couldn't get lucky with a little pitch out. He threw to Christian McCaffrey, 12 times. Couldn't get lucky with a throw it out to him and get Chris McCaffrey in the end zone. He had to hand it off all those times. But then, Mike Evans was questionable with the locker room bug, and he comes out and doesn't look like himself and has a bad week. O.J. Howard, we talked about how maybe he was coming down with the locker room bug as well because he played terribly. Curtis Samuel, just kind of a byproduct of Cam Newton not playing well. He doesn't play well, and then he goes up against Tyler, who just has a flat-out good week.
Well, just like you said, opposite of Cam Newton not having a good week, just like you said, Christian McCaffrey had a great week, even taking a snap as the quarterback or as the single back, and I think Cam Newton was out. He was kind of playing running back there and just took it straight up the middle. We hear Christian McCaffrey continues to just be this workout fiend and work out and work hard in the off-season programming and get the touches. They talk about limiting his touches this year. He played. I think he played 100% of the snaps. If not, he played close to it. It was unbelievable. The guy is he's a beast. He does it, and his goal is just 1,000 rushing yards, 1,000 receiving yards, and he damn well might get it.
Yeah. Well, and then Nick Chubb didn't have a great week, but Nick Chubb is definitely going to improve. Jordan Howard gave him 6 points. David Montgomery should have been used more, but wasn't. Juju Smith-Schuster had a bad week. Robert Woods gave him 12. That's probably a low-end Robert Woods week. Robert Woods is definitely going to have higher weeks than that, but I don't think he's going to score less than 12 points a week. And then Evan Ingram was the guy who blew up, and it was kind of a three-headed monster here. He gets almost 40 from McCaffrey. He gets 20 from Russell Wilson in very limited work, and then he gets 23 from Evan Ingram. And that kind of leads the way there. I think that there's a whole lot. Like Tyler's team, we talked about it earlier. He goes from second place to third to last, and now looking to get back into that competitor area. And he's got a lot to build on.
Yeah.
David Montgomery's only going to get better. Miles Sanders on his bench. He's only going to get better.
Nick Chubb looked great this week. He just didn't find the end zone. He got a vulture touchdown, which obviously we're pissed about in another league because we have Nick Chubb and needed the points. But anyway.
But then Carlos Hyde looks pretty good, and he's got him on his bench. Christian Kirk is only going to get better in that offense. Juju Smith-Schuster is going to have better games than he did. So I think that there's a lot for Tyler to build off of here, and I think that he's going to be looking better moving forward, putting up consistently these 140s, if not a little bit higher, and then the big upset.
All right, let's get to it.
My projection to have the number 1 overall pick next year beat my projection to win the league this year.
You can't make this stuff up. It's football sometimes. Yeah. It's crazy.
And on top of it, Jets on the Clock played the worst quarterback he could have played. He played Baker Mayfield, who got him 11 points. Lamar Jackson's 43 points are sitting on the bench. And even if you went with Tom Brady, his 31 points are on the bench. So he left 20 to 30 points on the bench in quarterbacks and still was able to pull out almost a 20-point win. Danny Amendola had a big game. Keenan Allen had a big game. Jamison Crowder just caught a lot of passes. I don't know if I'd really call it a big game, but he caught a lot of passes. And
let's talk about this rookie. He moved up in the draft to get him. He wanted him he had the 1-2 overall pick. He wanted that 1-1. He took Josh Jacobs, and right now it looks like a great pick because they are going to run Josh Jacobs into the ground, and I think he is. I think Oakland is committed to the run game. He's obviously showed that he can be effective in the pass game. Came away with 23 points this game.
And he's got Chris Conley on his bench, who knows if it's a revenge game
or
if he's going to be a big part. But there's been a lot of positive news out of Jacksonville about how Chris Conley looks in camp. And then he had Ronald Jones, who, for as ugly as the Tampa Bay backfield is, Ronald Jones looked good on a bunch of runs this week, so who knows if he continues to take steps in that direction.
And I think we talked about Peyton Barber. I think Peyton Barber's been a decent kind of maybe just above replacement value running back. I think that Tampa Bay backfield is wide open, though. I think Ronald Jones definitely has the opportunity to be the lead back there. So, and if he does, then that's going to be another weapon for Jets are on the clock.
And then on the other side, Jets are on the clock. He rolls out Kirk Cousins instead of Kyler Murray, which makes sense in his first NFL start. But who would have thought that Kirk Cousins was going to throw the ball 10 times? Still comes away with a decent week, 16 points, but could have used that bump with Kyler Murray's 25. James Conner just has a bad week, just like all the Steelers had this week. Tevin Coleman gets hurt and doesn't produce as much. I feel like Fournette was involved in the game. He had that fumble.
He looked really good,
He had that fumble that hurt him, but it looks like Fournette is back to hopefully being the guy for West Coasters, the guy who he was 2-3 years ago when he set the league on fire. Kamara just looked incredible. I wish I had a share of his.
Yeah, that's one that I don't have either, and I would love to have it. Every week it seems like he's doing something. Just breaking tackles or making a spin move here. The guy is so elusive and so quick.
To go down so many times against the Texans. 3, 4, 5 tacklers. We
look at Brandon Cooks. Obviously, Brandon Cooks is one of those inconsistent sometimes wide receivers, but we expect big things from him moving forward. Kyle Rudolph. Sorry. It's late. Kyle Rudolph kind of throwing up the donut there. I don't know what happened. I guess that's part of the Cousins.
Thrown up significant donuts. I think that he's been throwing up donuts for the last 3 years. And I think that's one of the things. He's got Delaney Walker on his bench.
I was going to say if he played Delaney Walker this week, he would have won. That's the shift that can be made from one player to another. Rudolph to Walker, and Delaney Walker's coming off that injury. We didn't know what was going to happen with him or what we would see.
Hype around the Browns.
Yep. And now obviously he's looking good. Mariota might be effective. It looks like he's at least week 1. We know he's going to throw up probably about 10 or so stinkers this year. But
I know that Delaney Walker. So he only had 5 catches though. He had a good amount of targets, but he did only have 5 catches. If he doesn't get in the end zone twice, then he's throwing up like an 8 to 9 point game. So we'll see if Delaney Walker can consistently find the end zone or can get more involved. But yeah, I think that's definitely a touchdown dependent game. But like you said, if Delaney Walker's in there and Kyle Rudolph isn't in there, then it's a win for West Coasters.
Well, that was week 1.
Yeah, I do want to throw up one point. In week 1 last year, I think Jarrett lit the world on fire. He scored over 200 points. There might have been a couple other people that scored over 200 points. I feel like the scoring is significantly lower week 1 this year. Got no evidence to back that up.
I was going to say, I wish you would have done some research because I do remember the scores being really high last year, just overall.
I can do that right now. Let me go back to week 1 in 2018. Sorry, we just came from kickball, so
we did have a nice kickball game tonight. Won a big game. We're now 4-1 for those who actually care, but
none of you,
0 people listening.
So Jarrett goes off last year. He puts up 212 week 1. Will has the second most points with 170, which is right around your high score. But then everyone else is pretty much the same. The winning scores are 136. 134, 146, 117, and a couple teams that lost, like Mike put up 143, 119 lost, 128 lost. So, except for an outlier, I'd say the scores seem a lot lower, but aren't as low as I think they were.
Well, we'll continue to see, and I wonder if starting off this year with the Green Bay and Chicago game, we thought it was going to be this offensive shootout. Ended up being a 10-3 game. So I'm wondering if some of the just football happens and kind of last year was obviously quarterbacks lighting the world on fire. Obviously that's not going to completely shut down, but I wonder if defenses kind of catch up a little bit this year and kind of we see those numbers decrease just a little bit and scoring goes down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then just previewing week 2, I'm just going to go
let's just go through this
real
fast.
quick, and why don't you say who you think is going to win, and I'll say who I think is going to win.
That sounds
and
great.
I'm not going based off. I'm not looking at any of the games. I'm just looking at the teams and what I know of them.
All right.
So I play Mike, class of 2017. Projected to score 3 more points than him, but I don't think I'm going to get that lucky 2 weeks in a row, especially if Joe Mixon doesn't play and my running back situation's looking bad. I got Mike in this game.
Yeah, I think class of 2017 is gonna get their first win of the year.
Mm-hmm. Old division rivals. Ryan plays NJ Giants, my dad. NJ Giants is projected to win by 5 points. But the Bills defense plays the Giants this week, and I am going to go with Ryan on that simple fact.
Let's go Buffalo. I think Ryan gets the win here. So sick of it all. Pulls ahead of NJ Giants.
Mm-hmm. Backyard Boys is playing Everything Must Go this week. New division rivals. Not looking good for Everything Must Go. Will versus Nick. So I'm going to go with Will. He's projected to beat him by around 50 points. So I'm going to take Will and not do anything crazy here.
I think Saquon and Ezekiel Elliott get right this week, and Will puts up just as big of points as he did last week. And sorry Nick, but you're just not there yet.
Yeah, but next year,
your
2020 first overall pick is going to be really good. And if you move back to 2, the 2 pick is going to be just as good as the 1 pick. So
things can only get up. Go up
things
from
can
here.
only get better. And then looking over an old rivalry game, probably 2 of the best teams in the league with Mike and Jarrett are playing against each other. Jarrett's projected to win by 8. Jarrett's kind of had Mike's number. I know that has nothing to do. It's not like they're actually matching up, but I think I'm gonna take Jarrett in this one. I think that Kamara has a good game. I think Fournette has a better game. I think James Conner has a better game. I think Kirk Cousins has to throw the ball since they're playing Green Bay. I think he just in general puts up more points, and I think Mike will put up a lot of points too, but I think it's going to be one of those weeks where Mike puts up top 4 points and doesn't come away with a win.
And just so we're not agreeing on every single one, I'll go Hackenberger and Fries here. I think we talked about it. Gurley is maybe not the Gurley of old, but I think he's going to he might find the end zone 1 or 2 times this week. I think he's going to kind of slowly build into that. Cam Newton's obviously going to have a better week. These running backs that kind of are producing, Henry, Carson, Mack, I think they're going to continue to produce a little bit this week. I think Allen Robinson is a great is getting his value back, and is a great
against Denver.
Yeah, great play against Denver. Mike Evans is obviously gonna rebound, or we hope that he rebounds this week. O.J. Howard will probably rebound. So I definitely feel like Mike has the firepower to get there. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick him on that matchup.
All right. Then you play Tyler. You're projected to win by 20. And just because I'm sitting next to you, I'm gonna pick Tyler.
Ooh.
I like his.
I was
going
to pick Tyler.
Yeah. I like his matchups. I like Juju Smith-Schuster against Seattle. We saw what John Ross could do against Seattle. So Juju Smith-Schuster at home against Seattle, I think that spells big points. Christian McCaffrey against Tampa Bay. I think you might lose to 3 guys this week, and I think their names are Nick Chubb, Christian McCaffrey, and Juju Smith-Schuster.
I don't like seeing, obviously all 3 of those in the lineup, but Juju Smith kind of scares me the most, I think. I think he has a lot to prove with Antonio Brown leaving, taking over that number 1 role. Obviously kind of had a disappointing week last week, but he's back at home. I think he's going to put up some big numbers this week. Mm-hmm. But obviously I'm going to go with my own team. I think Dak Prescott is kind of proven that he is worth the money that they're going to pay him, probably. They keep saying it's an imminent deal. I think Prescott's going to put up some points this week.
Can't cover a deep pass.
Yes, we saw what happened with Deshaun Jackson, Deshaun Jackson last week. So I think Dak Prescott's going to exploit that defense. Amari Cooper obviously is going to benefit from that. We talked about DeAndre Hopkins,
but he's playing Jacksonville, and he never has that good of a game against Jacksonville.
Did you see what Sammy Watkins did to Jacksonville this week?
Hey, they were planning for Tyreek Hill.
That's true. And some of the Texans, they have Kenny Stills now. They have Will Fuller, some of these big time or big play guys. So the ball could go a couple different ways. But we just talked about how much we love Nuke, and I think that he's going to produce. Tyler Lockett, I think, is going to rebound this week. They're going to be on the road, so I think that Russell Wilson's going to have to throw a little bit more. DJ Moore, I'm hoping that he gets involved in that offense. He obviously had 10 targets last week. I think he's establishing himself as the number one. Kerryon Johnson, we talked about how he's off to a slow.
Spend a lot of time. You're just going to go through your entire lineup.
I'm trying to tell you why I'm going to beat Tyler this week and go 2-0.
Yeah.
But we will see, because Tyler is going to, I think we're projected right now to be the 1 and 2 scorers of the week.
When you're down when you're down 30 after Thursday night football, then we'll talk. And then we go to the Dominators versus Jets are on the clock. I think that they're new division rivals.
I believe so.
I could be wrong in that.
They are division rivals.
The Jets are on the clock, are projected to win by 6. I think with the bump up, with Deshaun Jackson, now in his lineup with a bump up with Matt Breida, with Tyrell Williams going against ghosts that play defense for the Kansas City Chiefs, and Tyler Boyd in a good matchup against San Francisco. I think that the Dominators get their first win this year.
Going back to agreeing now, I think you're right. I think Dominators have a little bit better offensive weapons. Jets are on the clock. Obviously had a huge week. I think they're going to regress just a little bit. I think Dominators are gonna get the victory there.
But I could see it going either way.
Yeah, I think a lot of these games have the potential to go either way.
Yeah. Jets are on the clock. Like Terry McLaurin, who put up a huge week last week, is projected 6 points. I think he can definitely score more than 6 points. He's got Lamar Jackson in against Arizona at home. Jacobs against Kansas City. Keenan Allen against Detroit. Crowder and Robbie Anderson.
Are you trying to convince yourself
Cleveland.
now?
I like the lineup. In the offseason.
Why don't we just end the podcast for these guys?
We could. In the offseason, I didn't like his lineup. All I'm saying is I think his lineup looks pretty good.
I think you're right. I think it could be either way. I think every single game, the other person that we picked could win has the potential of winning.
Except for Nick.
Sorry, Nick.
But I guess that's what it is, right? 50-50 either way.
That's right. Football is crazy.
Yes, football is crazy, and even Nick will win a game at some point this year. Maybe. So that'll do it for us. That was our end of the offseason wrap, our first week review, and our second week preview. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll be doing this for 16 more.
Yeah, trying to do this every week. So, yeah. All right, be good, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Tonight We Die Nasty. If you enjoyed our content, be sure to like and share with your friends. If you have any suggestions for us to talk about in our future fantasy endeavors, please leave a comment below and we'll be sure to talk about it. Thank you.